Hello. Today we are going to be printing with these absolutely gorgeous peacock feathers. I really love them. I adore all their dual colours. They're all my favourites, and I'll be using these colours to influence our prints today. So what are we going to be making? Well, today I thought I'd show you how to use feathers as masks in your printing. So we're going to create prints like these. They look pretty complicated, but they're actually only 2 layers of printing over one background colour. I'm going to be using 2 types of paper during my printing session. One of them is a deli paper, and the one I've got today is called Logan Wrap. The other type of paper I'm going to use today is rice paper. I recently found this supply at the Daiso shop. I found these 2 types to experiment. One says it's normal and the other one says it's thick. Now, I found the thick ones actually more reliable to print with. However, if you don't want to mess around with cheap papers and you get frustrated with your paper splitting or ripping, this is another alternative. It's a good quality rice paper, and it stands up well to picking up lots of layers. Having said that, I can't always get it sent to Australia, so an alternative I found is this one, and it is called Artway rice paper. So if you want to know a little bit more about the papers I use for collaging, I'm going to make a separate video tutorial that's just all about collaging papers, their pros and their cons, and why I use which one in which situation. Once I've made it, I'll put a link up here, so you'll be able to click on that and find it. I'll also put a link down in the show notes, so look out for that coming soon. So the style of print that we're making today, I found very useful when I made this collage, my peacock lady. I actually used it for making the peacock feathers in her headdress. So stick around to the end and I'll show you in a bit more detail how I used them for making this collage. And now, without further ado, let's get on with the printing. And I'll just say a quick apology if you hear any background noise in this video. It is school holidays and my daughter is home with a friend over, so what can you do? Right, I'm going to start off by making some background papers. Look at that, greenish yellow. Let's see what that one's like. A bit more, maybe greenish yellow mixed in with the green gold. Be a nice combo. I need a bit more of the greenish yellow. So I'm just going to show you how I made a couple of background sheets for a start. So I'm printing colour onto a sheet of paper so that it's ready for actually picking up our peacock prints later. In practice, I actually made a whole load of these and printed lots of images, but obviously I don't want to stay here all day, so I'll just show you how I made a couple, and then we'll move on to the 3 peacock feather prints. Oh, that's bright. So my plate's dirty here from an earlier print, but I'm just going to go ahead and layer up the blues, and any of that colour that mixes in and transfers is just going to make the next background print a bit more interesting. I'll add some of this pewter in with the blue. Kind of swirling it around and mixing it on the plate. And onto some deli paper. That's nice and delicate. Now we're going to get onto the fun bit, which is printing with the gorgeous peacock feathers. I just love peacock feathers. Look at them, they're so beautiful, all these gorgeous colours. Peacock feathers, you can often find them in craft shops, you can find them online if you Google it. And if you know anywhere near you that actually has peacocks, you often find that they might be selling the peacock feathers. Gorgeous, such beautiful natural items. We're just going to not think about this too much. We're going to be layering up peacock prints over these background prints that we've done. I'm going to start off, I think, with some alizarin crimson. I want a nice layer of alizarin crimson. I want to get a good coating across the gel plate, but I don't want it too thick, otherwise my peacock feathers will be smudgy and lack definition. I've got one feather there. Let's put a feather there. You don't have to just use the eye. Even this is a little bit of a part of a tail feather that the eye's been cut off. But there's lots of great definition on that too. Let's start like that. So I'm just going to pick one of these grey prints, put that on the top. And this is like using the feathers as a mask. So I'm going to get the outline of the feathers on here for a start. Now you want to push carefully around all the detail to make sure you get the impression of the feather into the paint. Push it in well and then pull it up. There's bits you think you've missed and you want to get a little bit more definition up, just push back down. Hey, look at that. I think that's just beautiful already. And now let's do layer 2. Starting off with Viridian Green Hue by Golden Paints. I'm going to use this brayer because it's got a bit more of the greeny colours on there. So a good covering on your gel plate. Not too thick, but I think I need just a tiny bit more than what I've got. A nice even coverage, but not too thick. Clean my brayer off, which I always forget to do. You probably noticed that. Why is she cleaning her brayer? That's because I forgot. There we go. Right, I add this one in. And like that. I'm just going to put it on top, see what happens. Pushing it in really well. Feel for where the feather is. Push particularly carefully around the feather. That's kind of cool. So it was as simple as starting with this mask print and then picking up another layer of the green on top of it, and a 2-layer print gave us this very interesting, rather complicated looking print, as easy as that. So this is the same process as before. I'm starting with a layer of copper paint. I'm adding on my feathers and then coming in with a teal blue background and taking a mask print around the feathers. And that's layer 1. Okay, so let's try one in manganese blue. And perhaps we'll mix in a bit of halo blue. With that, I'm trying to position the feathers differently each time so that we don't have, as I layer up, we don't have a build-up of exactly the same pattern, which is a little bit awkward because when you look at it, you just kind of, it seems to be sort of an obvious way to lay them. Let's go with that. So I'm going to put it on top of this one that we did with the blue and the copper. Just go straight on top like that. Push that in. Try and pick up as much detail as we can. Oh, that's a fun one. So similar to before, we started with a copper print on a teal background. We picked up another blue layer, and in just 2 layers, we ended up with a really interesting, complex looking print. Now I've got this one that I made before. I quite like it as a print just as it is, but I'd like to add another layer on it too. So, something purpley. Could use dioxazine purple, but that's quite an opaque one. What else have I got purple-wise? I've got permanent violet dark. That could be a good choice because it's a bit more transparent, and I'd like to see what's going underneath the layer. So I try a little bit of that. Might need a little more paint. How that goes. Just a touch more. Might go with that. See what happens. It's straight on top. Trying to press really firmly all around the feather, feeling the detail through the paper. Make sure I pick up as much paint as possible. Now I'll slowly pick this up. I feel like I need some more paint. I'll push it back down. A little extra rub. It's amazing when you do it like this how much extra paint you can pick up if you want to. Yeah, I think that's a nice print. So to recap again, layer 1 was teal over Amsterdam greenish yellow. Then layer 2 was golden permanent violet dark. What I found really interesting was where the permanent violet dark went over the greenish yellow, it formed a colour very similar to alizarin crimson. I hope you enjoyed that printing session and it gave you some ideas. You can use this technique with other items. It doesn't have to be flowers. It works really well with leaves and plants, for example. So do give it a go with whatever you have. Now, I shouldn't forget to say that each time we've lifted up the feathers, there's been a print left behind on the plate trapped underneath the feathers. So that itself opens up a whole new world of gel printing awesomeness. And I'll show you in my next video how I use those to make a different style of print. Once it's ready, I'll attach a link to the end of this tutorial. So before I go, let's have a quick look at Peacock Lady. Creating these bits down here could have been really tricky, you know. Imagine ripping each of these tiny little fronds and gluing them on. But how it actually works is this. These are the prints I made using the same process that I've shown you today to create the collage papers for this piece. And what happens is you find an area where you want it to look sort of feathery and frondy, but you don't want to rip all those tiny little bits. So look at your paper, find a piece like there, take that bit out, and take it out of the paper. Go for a nice section of the right shape. And then you can glue it on like that. And by using different colours, you can create the idea of a shape. And when you stand back, your eye does all the work and blends it all in. It's kind of like a little bit of magic. Such an awesome process, collaging. So what do you think? Are you looking at this and thinking you'd really like to learn to collage as well? But actually, it looks a bit tricky. I could help you with that. It does look like it's a complicated process, but actually, it's not that hard. If you break it down step by step, which is what I do, then anyone can learn to collage. So if you're interested, pop your name on my waitlist down below and I'll let you know when I've got my next offering available. In the meantime, you can never have too many gel prints for this process, so get gel printing. See you soon. Bye. I'm Amber from Amber Benison Art. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel.